Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Newsline Live. Sorry about the late start. We had some technical difficulties in the other studio. This evening, it's all about bittersweet, actually. The country is in the grip of an economic crisis. The country is in the grip of a health crisis with the pandemic. And, would you believe it, but corruption has not stopped. To talk about the latest sugary deal, we've got here with us a person with a good background, and he's none other than Mr. Eran Wickramaratne. Very good evening to you, Mr. Wickramaratne.
Good evening.
Everybody's got sugar on their minds. What's going on? Actually, I need to ask you this. Does the opposition in this country, do they care tuppence about corruption and so on? Or is it just one of those things? Are they very blasé? It sounds to me that it's the opposition, the collective opposition, are blasé in the face of this overwhelming sort of majority that the government has.
Thank you for inviting me, Faraz. I don't agree with what you just said about the opposition. We are very concerned about corruption. For us, there's one thing that we need to remember. The SJB, the Samagi Jana Balavegia, we are in fact celebrating our anniversary today. It's
yes, bravo.
One year.
That's good. Excellent. It's very good.
Yeah, 1 year since we formed this new party. We came out of the older party. And one thing that we want to be clear right from the outset is that we are not going to tolerate corruption. We want to go after corruption, and at the same time, you know, when you point one finger at others, 3 points back at you, we'll have to be constantly conscious of that, and we shouldn't protect any of our members if they are accused of corruption, and let the legal process follow.
That's Mr. Wickramaratne, our problem from a network point of view is that we are upfront and open with corruption, like you know, when we discovered that the bond had various failings, we exposed that. And we do so with everything, whether it was a highway or water or whatever, it's exposed. And so, but we need, the Republic needs the opposition to be firing on all cylinders and to explain with simplicity so that the Republic, the people, can understand what the problem is. Everyone's talking about the sugar scam, and then there are some reports that says, oh, it's not a scam at all, it wasn't so much of a loss as such, it's only kind of almost a notional loss. But actually, the JVP, they've gone to court about this, and the figure that is being quoted is 15.9 billion rupees. That's an awful lot of money, or put it another way, an awful lot of sugar.
Yes. So, if I would just very briefly explain it, you import sugar into the country, and you have a special commodity levy that's levied, and then in May 2020, this government decided to increase the tax. So it was 35 rupees per kilogram. They increased it to 50 rupees per kilogram. That was in keeping with their policy that you must encourage domestic production. And suddenly, on the 13th of October, right, the Presidential Secretariat, under the signature of the Secretary P. Vijayasundara, gives a directive to the Ministry of Finance, right, saying that the sugar price and some other commodities, basically the prices must come down, so the taxes need to be removed. Now that letter was copied also to Mr. Basil Rajapaksa, it was copied to Mr. Nushad Pereira, in the CWE chairman, and to the secretary of the ministry. So the following day, the tax, which was 50 rupees, was brought down to rupees 49 and 75 cents.
That means the tax is only 25 cents.
Tax is only 25 cents now, brought down by, 25 cents. So from 50 rupees to 25 cents. Now, the moment that happens, there are people who have already brought in sugar. They have paid the 50 rupees. They're having it in their stocks. those people immediately will suffer a loss, because if the prices come down, their cost is higher. Then there was one company which had a bonded warehouse.
Right.
Bonded warehouses are normally used for re-exports. So you bring a commodity or something into the country, you don't need to pay the tax because you're not going to be selling it in the country, and then you re-export it.
Right.
So from the bonded warehouse it goes out, and generally the customs will have basically they will make sure that it happens like that. So if you're taking something from the bonded warehouse and putting it on the local market, then you have to pay tax at that point.
Whatever the applicable tax is.
Applicable taxes. So Pyramid Wilmar company had about 8,000 plus metric tons of sugar there, and when the tax goes down to 25 cents, 150 rupees, you have a gain immediately, because you pay the 25 cents and put the sugar out, you have a gain of 400 million rupees.
And they love to do that.
They love to do that. They are allowed to do that. So, right, then you have the situation, right, that the parties can then import it because the taxes are now low. So clearly, in a situation like that, right, a normal small importer will have to contact a seller at that end. They will have to contract the prices, and then they would have to go to the bank and open their LCs, get their LCs advised and confirmed on the other side, and then the shipment will arrive, you know, weeks and months later, and that's kind of the regular way trade happens. If you're a very big company and a multinational, right, you can do it faster, and there are many reasons for it. One reason for it is that you know, you don't have to really contract prices or anything. You have your local agent, right, it comes in, or you have sugar that's at sea and you can always divert it into another port. And during this period, India was giving a sugar rebate because they were encouraging domestic production, right, and therefore a lot of sugar was leaving India and going to various parts of the world, and the likelihood is that these ships were diverted in here. So if you take the period between October 14th and February, and this is coming from the report that the Ministry of Finance gave the Parliamentary Committee on Finance, it says that during that period, right, that more than 300 million kilograms of sugar arrived within that period, because of the lower tax.
Right.
So if you look at it another way, normally the country gets about 550,000 metric tons to 650,000 metric tons annually, or 45,000 to 55,000 metric tons a month. In this period, it went to 80,000 metric tons a month. So it just doubles. In 4 months, you had this thing coming in.
Right.
So then the government loss of revenue in that period, because the tax going to virtually zero, 25 cents, right, is rupees 15.9 billion rupees.
That's the 15.9 billion.
That's the 15.9
Ms.
billion.
Wickramaratne, I hear what you say. If it is as clear cut as all this, why aren't those people behind this arrested? Why are they not arrested? Why have they not been sent to produced before court? And there are all sorts of rules and regulations. If it is as clear cut as this, who is holding them back?
Faraz, you're asking a good question, right? This is not like, you know, I have jewelry at home, and then suddenly we go home and my wife opens the almirah and the jewelry is not there and the jewelry is gone.
It's far more serious than that. This is 15 billion rupees.
Yeah. So, no, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, some crimes, right, you have a good in a place and the good goes missing.
Yeah.
Right, but other crimes, and particularly financial crimes, are not always like that. Financial crimes happen by manipulating prices, by manipulating taxes, by distributing advantages, and so forth. So there's a way to look at this. One way to look at it is the government lost potential revenue of rupees 15.9 billion. Now that's big, because the reason I'm saying it's big is, Faraz, This is a period in which everybody is talking about having a corona vaccination.
Well, yes, and anyway, the economy is in shambles.
Yeah, but one vaccine, right, was $4.25. Sri Lanka contracted at $5 when the rest of the region contracted at $4.25. So assume it's $5. Multiplied by 200 rupees a dollar, that's roughly 1,000 rupees.
Yeah.
If 16 million people have to be vaccinated, that's 16 billion.
Right.
So the one loss of revenue through taking away the special commodity levy on sugar is the cost of vaccinating 16 million people in this country.
What's wrong with this government then? Why when they came first into power, they gave us they announced a tax cut, and that cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of rupees. So from what you're saying, they've done the same all over again.
Yes, it's definitely the wrong policy for sure. But now the question is, government loses revenue, the public loses services and facilities because the revenue is not there. And on the other hand, you would assume then the consumer must benefit. Taxes come down, prices.
But they didn't.
Consumers didn't benefit because sugar prices were still at 120, 130, 135.
Satos sold 1 kilo each at 85 rupees.
That's right. So they put a maximum retail price at 85
But then there's
rupees.
a loss there. What about that loss?
Yes. Now the JVP had gone to court on the basis that, right, Satos was forced to buy sugar at 117 or 120 rupees, and they were forced to sell it at 85 rupees. Actually, if the government was going to reduce taxes to bring costs down and use government distribution, then they should have got Satos to actually get the sugar from overseas at the international prices. International prices were roughly 70 rupees a kilo plus other costs, 85 rupees a kilo. Then they could have got it, and Satos wouldn't have made a loss and sold it. So here, the government has lost revenue, the public hasn't benefited, the consumers haven't benefited. And then when you look at the companies that imported it, right, that Pyramid Wilmar, according to that report, had nearly 39.6 or something, nearly 40% of the market share. 6 other companies had another 45%, and all the small traders had only 15% of market share. And Pyramid Wilmar doesn't take into account in that market share what they also had in the bonded warehouse. So this is what I call a bonded scam, a bonded sugar scam, rather than a bond scam.
Right.
You see this
yes,
one?
but now I see some similarities you don't like. Yeah. One, in the last government, while this is going on, the media shouted blue, black and whatever and said, can you arrest them or move them aside, do something. There was hardly anything was done. It was all, oh, well, there's no evidence until the Presidential Commission and all that, different story. I don't want to liken the two. But now in this government, why isn't the SJB standing up and yelling their heads off and saying, arrest these people, arrest them, and do an investigation?
Yeah, so we are saying it, you know, when the Auditor General looked at that earlier scam, the bond scam, he said about 1.6 billion rupees of loss.
Right, well, this is several times more.
This is 10 times more. This is 16 billion. And in that case, the central bank is holding a deposit of nearly 12 billion.
Well, yeah, we don't want to come to that.
No. But what I'm trying to say is this, that the magnitude of this is huge, the magnitude of this. And therefore, right, I would say, right, I won't just say go and arbitrarily arrest people and all that kind of thing.
But you can't arrest anyone for importing sugar. If the circumstances are right, they'll import it.
No, I'm saying is do a forensic audit.
Ah, well, there you go. That's you people might have learned from the bond scam.
That's right. Do a forensic audit, because in the bond scam there were 5 volumes of the forensic audit, and they were shouting about that scam about the 1.6 billion.
If you do a forensic audit this time round, what will you hope to uncover?
Oh, I think we will learn a lot, because when we got the report of the forensic audit on the earlier scam, right, the present Minister of Capital Markets, Nivad Cabral, was the governor of the central bank. In that period he was governor, 2005 to 2015. That report says that, you know, there was about a 10 billion rupee loss, right, or in that range, right? So my point is, a forensic audit will be able to tell us, when you are reducing a tax, somebody gets an advantage. If you get the information early, you get an advantage, somebody else doesn't get an advantage. If I know it ahead,
so
we are
are you
both
hoping that the forensic audit will reveal whether there was some inside information exchange between the people who...
I mean, there is every reason to believe that, because if the state is losing revenue, consumers are not having a benefit, some companies have benefited largely, a forensic audit can establish, right, who the people who made the decision. This was made in the presidential secretariat, this decision, because the letter came from there. Then
But do you honestly think, sorry
yeah.
to interrupt you, but do you honestly think, Mr. Wickramaratne, that the president has got a big majority, the government has a 2/3 majority for whatever reason, and however that worked out, do you honestly think that with all these, and sorry, the 20th Amendment on top of all that, do you honestly think that this forensic audit will ever come out?
It will. Now, the other forensic audit came out towards the end of our government.
Yes, but that was in the Yapalu
Yeah. But it came at the end of our government, right? And therefore we couldn't act on it. But the audit is there. It can be acted on in the future.
Yes, but that's not the question. The question is, along with this sort of authoritarianism now, aided by the 20th Amendment and the 2/3 and the big majority of the president, do you think that it's practical that they will actually appoint somebody to do a forensic audit?
Well, we are calling for the forensic audit. If they don't do it, we will do it when we come into office. We will not let this go. I would like to say this.
But you all said that about the previous admin and then nothing happened.
No. No, they are the ones who talked about it earlier. Then the monetary board got a forensic audit done there. But that forensic audit came at the end of 2019. Those findings of that forensic audit must be pursued. And the forensic audit was done by BDO and KPMG. These are internationally reputed audit firms, and it must be done. This forensic audit is needed. Now this thing about saying, I heard the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Treasury, also saying that, kind of trying to make out that, this is a reduction in tax, and it shouldn't be looked at a loss and so forth. I would like to read this to you. Out of Section 70 of the Bribery Act, it says this. It says, any public servant who with intent to cause wrongful or unlawful loss to the government, or to confer wrongful or unlawful benefit, favor or advantage on himself or any person, or with knowledge that any wrongful or unlawful loss will be caused to any person or to the government, or that any wrongful or unlawful benefit, favor or advantage will be conferred on any person, does or forbears to do any act which he is empowered to do by virtue of his office as a public servant, induces any other public servant to perform or refrain from performing any act which other public servant is empowered to do by virtue of office, right? That person, right?
Who is this person?
By virtue of his office, right? By virtue of his office, will be found guilty of an offence of corruption, and shall, upon summary trial and conviction by a magistrate, be liable for imprisonment.
So who
or
is
for
this
paying.
person? Then?
So what I'm trying to say is, right, that there's reason to believe, right, that there was impropriety here. Consumers didn't benefit, government lost potential revenue. Who benefited from it? Clearly some companies benefited from it. Who had the information? Who passed the information? And decisions were made.
But who made that decision? The one that you've just read out. Was it the President's Secretary, Dr. Jayasundar, or was it the Treasury Secretary, Mr. Artigala?
No, because Mr. Artigala has been called before Parliament's Finance Committee, and they have been questioned. They have sent a report in writing to Parliament, and in the written report, right, in the attachments in the written report, they have also attached a letter by the Secretary to the President, Mr. Jayasundara, requesting that the tax be removed. So it appears that the decision came from there, and therefore the Finance Ministry is basically giving an explanation, right, that the request came, we have followed the request, and that's how the revenue has gone down. And the play of words is like, it's not a loss, it's a potential loss. By heavens, it's a loss, because it's a 15.9 billion rupees that you should have got, you're not getting it. Then you need to have very good reasons. And then who benefited from it? Forensic audit is absolutely necessary to look at this. They could go through many records, financial records, minutes, decisions. They should go through telephone conversations. They could even see about the shipments, where the shipments came, where they were originated, how did they come in. So many things that could be seen, and then also see why losses in CWE.
Unless we want to risk going back the other route where we're now looking for Mr. Mahendran and so on and so forth, now that this is happening in real time, it's happening now, thanks to the media, that it is the media who's looking for all these answers. Why can't you all insist and call for various people to be arrested, questioned?
Yeah, Faraz,
we had queues nearly at the FCID in the last government.
Faraz, I reject this view that the opposition is not doing its work. We are doing our work. When this gazette subsequently, when taxes are reduced or increased, ultimately it has to come to Parliament, and Parliament has to approve or disapprove of it. And I told the opposition whip, Mr. Lakshman Kiriel, that when this gazette comes to Parliament, we have to call for a vote, because we have all reasons to believe that we are suspicious of this transaction. And Mr. Kiriel requests the Speaker for a vote, and we did not have a vote in Parliament for this. And that is unacceptable, because the Speaker should have heeded to our request and permitted a vote on this gazette. There may have been people in government also who may have seen through this and supported us in that vote.
But Sri Lanka's contemporary history is littered with this sort of thing. We had tsunami money that was taken and then returned, right? Then we have about the bond scam, whenever we bring this up, they say, oh, well, you know what? We've got 12 billion sat in the central bank. We want the money returned to the people. We don't want these lousy excuses, because these are nothing but lousy excuses. They bought shares, EPF, they bought shares at vastly inflated prices. Now when you say to them, you say, well, we bought them with a term view. We didn't buy them for selling today and tomorrow, for trading. Really? How long are we going to wait before that investment is actually going to pay a proper return? As a banker, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I understand what you are saying. It's not just a question about money and money being returned. That those who have done wrong must be taken before the courts, and they must be tried. There must be justice. And I'm fully in agreement with this. There must be justice. Therefore, on the other things, because the sugar transaction has just surfaced, it'll take a little time, but even on the other ones, right, those in the legal profession in this country, the Attorney General's department, and everybody in the legal profession also has a responsibility, because if the government is not really delivering justice, this is in a democracy like ours, the judiciary is independent. If the Attorney General puts the cases, the independent judiciary can make decisions, and if they have the evidence, they must convict those who have stolen, whether it's the bond scam or the bonded scam, which is much bigger. This must be pursued.
On that note, it's now time for the prime time news. Thank you very much, Eran Wickramaratne. Take care. And here we go, the best program going this evening, which is, of course, the primetime news from News First. Take care. God bless you.